Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. How's everybody? It is so special to be here. I want to thank Ihab for coming all this way to be with us today, especially for this occasion of CopticCon 2024. I want to thank all of you for being here. It is my privilege and my honor to be able to interview somebody I've admired for a long time. And Ihab, how are you?
I'm overwhelmed. I didn't think you would see so many, you know, I mean, I look here and think there's nobody left in Egypt.
Well, just so you know, here we are. We're in the Grand Ballroom. This event sold out twice, right? Twice. Standing room only right now, and all because everybody wanted to come hear you. And we're ever grateful for that. I want to thank Neda Anis and Evie Anis in particular for everything that they've done. Please. So I want to get right to the interview so that we're efficient with your time and everybody's time here. But I thought it would make sense if we just set the table for a moment, right? And one of the things that I think would be instructive, we had this beautiful montage of video of a bio of you, but I think it would be helpful if we kind of set the table and talk a little bit about your past. And it's largely because folks like me, generations of young children and adults across the Middle East, and particularly within the Coptic community, have been raised hearing the Sawiris name, right? And it started, of course, with your father, Unsi, who passed away in 2021, God bless his soul. He was a luminary in business, but you chose to chart your own path, and a path different from your father and different from your brothers. And just so everybody has equal footing on this, you have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, a master's degree in technical administration from Europe's MIT, which is the Swiss Polytechnic, Federal Polytechnic Institute. You are the proud father of 4 children. You are the chairman of Oroscom Investment Holdings, and according to Bloomberg's Billionaire Index, you are one of the wealthiest people in the world and the #1 most wealthy person in Egypt. You established Oroscom Telecom in 1997 and won the first license to provide a private mobile network in Egypt. And by the 2000s, your telecom business grew to a multinational company expanding in 28 different countries in the world. By 2005, you acquired Wind Mobile, which was Italy's 3rd private mobile network. And that deal, as I gather, was not for the faint of heart because it required Ihab to pledge at least half of his net worth to be able to do that deal. You expanded your operations into challenging territories like Korea, Algeria, Yemen, Iraq, and other extremely challenging environments. Pakistan, right? And then you later exited from some of those places because you had a zero-tolerance policy for corruption. And after 2 decades as CEO, you stepped down from Oroscom, but remain its chairman. And since then, you've launched a gold investment company. You have acquired a bank in Europe. You have launched and expanded luxury resorts in Grenada. And as if that weren't enough, here we are sitting today, weeks away from the 7th consecutive El Gona Film Festival, which converted Gona to an international metropolis for arts and cinema, which is amazing. And as we came in here today, there were a number of students from Agora who are here, and today you're also the chairman of Agora University, where the business school bears your name, right, in partnership with you. So, here's the question, because you've all been waiting for the question. Of all the things that I just listed, and I'm sure there's much more I could list.
It's only half.
I was trying, I really was.
No, you did a good research, but you missed a few things. Okay.
I'm sure I missed a few things. But so think about over the course of your career, what is the thing that you are most proud of in your business?
I think it's Oroscom Telecom, because, you know, most of the telecom operators at the time when I started were either governments like France Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, British Telecom, they were not private, mostly they're big giants, you know. So to be able to start a company in Egypt and then move around Africa and go to Europe and to challenge these big guys. And when I sold my telecom company, I was the 9th largest telecom operator in the world based on subscribers. I had 500 million subscribers. So that's the one achievement that because it was very hard because I didn't get any help from our government in Egypt, of course, so on. And I didn't get help from anybody except God, alhamdulillah, so I didn't need anyone. You know.
That's good. Well, so, but before Orascom Telecom, which was 1997, do you remember the very first entrepreneurial venture you were involved in?
It was a very funny thing. I was 16 years old. My dad had a friend who worked in air conditioning. And another friend of my dad said he bought some air conditioning equipment that he, I didn't tell any of the two friends. I went to the one friend, negotiated his sale price. I went to the other friend, negotiated his buy price. And I made 6,000 pounds. Just to, in reference, 6,000 pounds at that time, the dollar was 70 piastres. So this was like $7,000, and I was 16 years old, and I felt like a hero, you know. So that was my first deal.
So now take me back to that moment, though. Take us back to that moment. What inspired you to do that?
No, I think I was a good trader from the beginning of my life. You know, in the Jazeera Club where we used to go, I used to play marbles. And I was very good at it, so I would make a lot of marbles and sell it to the other kids who had more money because my dad was very strict with my allowance. So I would sell the marbles, make a lot of money. So I started feeling the money making. And my dad was an entrepreneur, he was a contractor, you know, and so I had this vision of my dad, you know, that I never thought I wanted to be an employee. I always knew I wanted to have my own business, you know. So it was, I would say it was in my blood, you know, to put it this way.
And your business journey generally has been nothing short of astounding, right? I mean, we've gone through some of it. But as you look over the last 4 decades, from the time of those marbles to today, right? What do you consider to be your greatest achievement in business?
In business?
Yeah.
Well, again, it's the Orascom Telecom. I'll tell you, I started from scratch. So I had to accumulate the initial capital, which was $60 million, which I didn't have when I took the license. So when I took that, I had only 30. So I had to work very hard to get the other 30 in order to complete the deal of Mobinil. And from Mobinil, 9 years later, Orascom Telecom was worth $19 billion. 9 years, and from scratch, no government behind me, nobody helping me. I had a lot of wars and difficulties building that. So that's my first achievement. After the telecom, when I sold my telecom, I had another achievement, and I hate to speak about myself, you know, because it's...
but this event is about... No, but, it's okay.
Okay, I decided to go into gold. So I said, okay, you're not like these old grandmas that put their money in gold and have earrings. And you have to do something which is business related. So I thought of, instead of just buying gold, so I bought a mining company with some small management team, so I could start not from scratch like the telecom, like I had, because I was not a geologist and I was just a businessman. So I bought this small company in mining, and within, again, I think it was in 2012, again within 8-9 years, today I'm one of the 4 largest investors in gold mines in the world. As an individual, the funds like BlackRock or Van der Eyck, all these people, they are also one of the bigger ones. But as an individual, I'm one of 4. You know, I think 2 Russians and 1 South African. Yeah. So these are the 2 main.
Those are the 2.
Yeah. And actually, the third one is the Aura development. So I went into when I sold my telecom, I had to do something in Egypt, so I decided to go into development, construction, and real estate development. And there was a small problem that we had a family agreement that nobody goes into the business of the other brother, because my father was very wise during his life, and he divided our activities on each son individually, because we were very different in character, and we were not getting along, we were having fights all the time. So my father said, no, while I'm here, you divide. We divided everything on 4, and each son took the business he was managing. So I ended up with the telecom business and so on. So when I sold the telecom business, I decided to go in development, but my brother, my middle brother, was mainly also in development, Elguna. I'm sure everybody knows here Elguna. And so I said, okay, I'm starting in Cairo. It's not in Cairo, but it didn't work well. I mean, in the beginning, I had to work from my relation with him to tell him, I told him I'm out of a job. I can't sit home and do nothing and like that. So now he's okay with it, you know, because he is also retired and gave the business to his son. I haven't retired yet, you know, but I gave my son all my many other businesses that he's running, you know. And then I started development 5 years ago, and I think today I'm the 2nd or 3rd largest developer in Egypt. But it's a very risky business because of the inflation right now in Egypt is 30%, and every time we deliver a unit, the buyer makes money and we lose money. So not a big success till now.
That's great. So, having talked about that for a moment, right? You haven't retired. It doesn't look like you're going to retire anytime soon. You've got a lot of energy, as anybody could see just you coming up into the hotel here today. But as everybody sees and they hear about the fame, they hear about the fortune, and very few people get to see the strength and the resilience that comes with all of that. And so that leads me to ask this question for the entrepreneurs who are in this room, who in many ways probably are going through the same thing, or at least are trying to do their thing, right? Can you talk a bit about some of the failures? Some things that you perhaps stand out in your career that you felt like you failed in? And how did you address it?
I have 2 major failures in my career, so I will tell you exactly the ones. The first one was after I had the company in Italy and in Greece. There was a French company called Vivendi, and they had the license in France and in Morocco. And I was in Algeria and Tunisia and Egypt, so I thought they were a good fit to combine. And with my market cap, I would be a 30 or 40% shareholder in the combined entity. But I was a bit innocent, so I went directly to the French, you know. Long story short, so the CEO was very arrogant, typically French, you know. I mean, and he alienated me. Because he told me, no, you know, you can take 10% of our company and we'll pay you the rest in cash. I told him, no, I'm not selling my company. You misunderstood. Anyhow, I disliked him to the extent that I wanted to give him back. So I told him, you know what? Tomorrow morning I'll buy the 10% and you can't do nothing to stop me. And he looked at me and he was red and yellow, but he was impolite. Yeah. I left the room in anger and I bought the 10% but on debt. Okay, very highly leveraged. And then the crash came. You remember the famous crash in 2008? And I had a margin call and I lost 490 million euros in one night. And I couldn't sleep actually this night, you know. I had to stay awake till the morning to absorb the loss. And my dad was my partner in the telecom. So I said, I cannot go to my dad and go to you have to chip in your third of the loss. I always only gave him. So I managed with the bank to pay the whole loss on my own. Never told my dad about it, you know, because I think my dad would have gotten a heart attack. So that was the first failure, which you can learn a lesson is never take a decision in anger. I mean, that's a good advice. Yeah. The second one is I bought a company in Greece, a mobile company, from private equity. And first of all, I'll tell you the mistakes later. Anyhow, I bought this company. I did the first mistake. There are 2 mistakes. Also. Never buy anything from private equity because they've actually taken all the flesh and they leave you with the bone. Second, never leave the same management in place. So I did the 2 mistakes. I bought from private equity, left the same management because the CEO was charming, was Greek, and I felt he's really a good guy, you know. So, but what I didn't know what I didn't take into consideration, that when I bought it, there was a bonus to all the management, and they became all millionaires, and they were very busy buying their boats and homes and not looking at the business, you know. So I left them, and the business went broke down, and then I had to put more money, and I lost for the second time. So these are my two main. I lost another 450 million or 500 million euros in this. So these are my two biggest failures in life.
So for the entrepreneurs in this room, as you look back over it, do you see failure as a necessary ingredient to success?
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
In both cases, there was a bit of an arrogance and too self-esteem, which should not be in the business. In business, you need to be very just, subjective and objective. I mean, so it was not the case. In both cases, there were clear mistakes. First one was decision in anger. The second case, you buy from a crocodile. What do you expect to find? And then you leave the same management who became very rich, so they don't work, you know. So it's a mistakes, but it's better without failures. I mean, but I like the fact that people ask me about my failures, because I don't think there's anybody who cannot show a failure, you know.
Well, none of us are perfect, but we aspire, right? We come to everything that we do, and as you've done in your career, with nothing short of perfect intentions. And so, but as we talk about some of the successes, as we talk about some of these failures over the course of your career, was there a certain leadership style that you brought to them?
I think my leadership style is special, because I have to have a team that I like and who enjoy the work like I enjoy it, and who are thrilled about the business we are in as I'm thrilled about it, you know, and who are well educated, come from good families, are responsible, and so on. So my style is always to gather around me people of that and create the loyalty. And the loyalty I've created through the fact that anybody who works with me is more important for me than me, you know. And if you insult me or you say something bad about me, if in front of it, it's okay, I might forgive you. But if you insult any of my fellow workers or you are rude to them, you will wish you were never born. You know, I mean, you know. And so I'm very loyal to the people who work with me. I consider them my family, and I share their problems. I am always there when there is a crisis, even personal crises, you know. So that's one style. The second style is I take the decision fast. I don't like waiting too much for the decision. I'd rather take 100 decisions and have 5 wrong than take 5 and do them in 5 years or 10 years, you know. So my style is always like, I would never leave the room without a decision. Or like saying, oh, inshallah, bukra nabqa nshoof, or let's give it some more time, ma fish dakhi khalis, yani yes, no, okay, yani ma fish. That's the second thing. And the third is ethics. So whatever the loss, whatever the gain, nobody will ever manage to bend our arm, extort us, or blackmail us, you know. And you know that being a Christian Copt in Egypt and being, you are confronted with many challenges, which should not be. So it's very good to be like me, which means if you try to let me fall down, I'll break your leg. And this is not good, because as a Christian, I should give the other cheek, you know. So, I mean, this is one of the sins I'm going to be confronted with as I go. Beside others, yeah. But the reason of that, so just to defend myself on this point. In Egypt, when you walk as a Christian Copt in a police station, for example, or in any government entity, they look at your name, they think you're Christian, they think you're a wiki. Yani they can do with you whatever they like. You know? So I go into these places already very fueled, waiting for the first mistake from the other side to show him that I'm not a wiki. But that's why I became so, and the same happened to me when I was studying in Zurich, because I was the only foreigner in the class, and one of the few foreigners in the German-speaking class. So in a class of, we were 160, out of which only 19 graduated at the end. So 18 Nazis and myself. So, so I was also I had to be very, very tough with these guys because they think, coming from Africa or Egypt, I always have this, So my excuse of being like that is that it's exactly like that, when you walk into these government, you think, so I'm in a good position today, they don't do it.
So you talked a bit about loyalty to your team, and you manage hundreds of people, have managed probably multiples of that over the course of your life. And if anybody knows who's here with you today, obviously somebody who I have great respect for, Alex Shellaby in particular, who ran some of your businesses.
Yeah.
And he would echo.
But he gives the other cheek every time.
He gives the other cheek.
Where is he? Where is he? أدوار شايف؟ He gives the other cheek, and I have to go and do his fights because he's always too peaceful. I mean, I think he's a really good Christian. I don't know what I am, but he is.
He's one of the best from my own experiences, but it sounds like the two of you balance each other out, which leads me to my next question, actually. As you talk about your team and the kind of loyalty that you put around them, everybody has strengths and talents, right? You've got the peacemaker and the fighter, you've got the cerebral intellect versus somebody who's more practical and street intelligent. How do you assemble a team, recognizing all the various strengths and weaknesses?
It's a very good question, because there are many schools of business, nazariyat, theories, So my style is nobody's perfect. Know his strengths and know his weakness. Use his strengths and defend his weakness. So this is the way because nobody's perfect. If you're going to look to the perfect persons to employ, you won't find anybody in the end. So you have to just take people and know where they're good. I had a CEO who was not like that, and he was not very successful before because he wanted just perfect people, and in the end he was alienating 80% of the staff but nobody's perfect. And then in another way also, I got my lesson very young that God just gives everybody different talents, So you can't defy God by saying, no, this guy is stupid or this guy is... in my organization, if he's stupid, I'll give him a stupid job. If he's lazy... if he was lazy, I will put someone on his ass to make him work. So I used to do like that. Alex actually is a problem because we had another Canadian guy working with us called Mike, and he always told me, Alex goes to our enemies and sides with them all the time. But the fact that Alex was trying to be a peacemaker, So being a peacemaker, you are looked at as a traitor because you're going to an enemy. And I know Alex very well was not the case, but he was always trying to diplomacy. Well, me, I don't like that. I go inside, I see the enemy, I hit him in the face and get it done with.
And again, that comes back to complementing each other. So you're putting together teams that have complementary skills, and you focus on that. Do you ever recall a time where you felt like perhaps you misjudged a person and their skills? I mean, Alex has been with you for 30 years, and I don't want to pick on you, Alex, because everybody knows how incredibly successful you've been. But have you ever looked back over the team that you've assembled and said, I made a mistake?
No, it's not mistakes. There's one thing you cannot predict, which is treason. Or when someone is a traitor, he betrays you. It can happen to the best of the best. So of course it's happened to me very few times, but I had one or two cases like. And the other case I had is someone that you really helped to build him up, and discovered very late that internally he was jealous from you, and he had other. So it happened also to me, But in the long cycle of people, and the people who love me and I love them, it's very few percent. I would say I was maybe wrong or deceived 1 or 2% of all the people I dealt with.
Those are great odds. I wish I had those odds myself. So let me try to pivot the conversation a little bit to some of the reasons why we're here, obviously, entrepreneurship is booming, right? And Coptic entrepreneurship and Coptic business formation is actually booming as well. And I would estimate, from my own experiences at least, and this is purely anecdotal, it's not empirical, that in this last decade, we will have seen the birth of more Coptic-owned businesses than in any other prior decade in the United States, and perhaps even abroad. But my experience has been limited to the U.S. So the question I have is, are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing this Coptic-owned business formation boom just the same?
Where, in America or in Egypt?
Well, let's start with America and then talk about it.
No, in America, it's clear because nobody in America here will block you because of your religion, you know, or will try to put obstacles in your way because of religion. So America is the most open, it's the greatest country on earth. I mean, there's no... and for simple reasons is that there is the rule of law and order. If a policeman harasses you and he's on the wrong, you can get him. It's not because he's a policeman, he's immune. He can go to a court of law and get your rights, you know. You're here to say Trump is not good, or Kamala Harris is stupid, or, you know, you can say what you want and you go home. Try that in Egypt, you won't sleep in there. You won't sleep in your house. So it's a great country. I mean, and people who live here should appreciate that they are here, you know, should appreciate that, you know, because, and it's also the country that provides open opportunity. It's the land of opportunity, you know. This is a country which was built not from 3,000, 5,000 years like us, for a couple of hundred years, and look where they are today, you know. So it has all the right values. Even the Americans are the most charitable. When you call for a charity event, most people are, if they can't afford it, they put $5 in an envelope and they send it, you know. I wouldn't say that about the Egyptians in general in Egypt. Whenever we do a fundraising, we go home empty-handed, you know.
So I guess that something you said just hit upon a question that struck me, and it really has to do with kind of world events as a whole. There's a lot of complicated stuff that's happening in the world, right? You've got a 600-mile war front with 1 million casualties in Ukraine. You've got Israel, Gaza. You've got Lebanon. You've got 4 to 5 million barrels of Sudan. You've got 4 to 5 million barrels of oil that come through the Red Sea, among other containers of cargo that come through that are constantly being accosted and interfered with. You've got trade wars that are now happening between the U.S. and China. In the U.S., you've at least got quantitative tightening. You've had in the U.S. 15 years of effectively zero interest rate, which has affected debt and household consumption. And there are other things. There are many other things. I mean, you mentioned more than what I came up with. What else are you seeing in the world today that you think is going to impact supply chains, business as a whole? What are you paying attention to?
I'm paying attention to the rise of dictatorship. You know, so you have a dictator in China, you have a dictator in Russia, you have a dictator in India, you have a dictator in Turkey. So it's very fashionable nowadays to have a dictator, to be a dictator, you know, because it's very easy. Once you're a dictator, you can do whatever you want. There is no accountability, and everybody's scared. If you criticize me, you'll end up in jail. So very nice life. You control the parliament, you control the media, you control everything, and you can do whatever you want, you know, until you die. You know, I always hope that these dictators die earlier than later, but it doesn't happen, you know. So this is what is feeding me, is that all these dictators with their ambitions. A good example is Putin. He wakes up in the morning and walked into another country with his army unprovoked. You can say, oh, because Ukraine wanted to join NATO. I mean, they haven't joined NATO yet, and they haven't gone in. Why don't you just tell them about your fears and try to sit down? But you move an army inside the country, and what do you expect? That they will welcome you with roses, you know? So this is one example. There's other examples, like what will happen when China moves on Taiwan? A big giant against David against Goliath, you know, what chance? What would America do when they move at Taiwan? They go to war now with Taiwan? Taiwan will be eaten, you know, so, and they intend, I'm sure they will do that one time whenever they feel it's the right moment from a geopolitical point of view. India, the guy is totally, he's a Hindu and he's totally biased, you know, he treats the Muslim minority, and when you say Muslim minority, there are 400 million or 300 million, he treats them like shit, you know, he cuts the electricity in Kashmir, he is very anti-Muslim, you know, in a way that is not acceptable, you know. So you have all these dictators running around, you know, that's the danger, because they can take a decision. Actually, even, I don't want to give examples, you know, but like a country like Sudan was also governed by a dictator for 30 years, which al-Bashir was. And so these people, because they're individuals and they have certain powers, they can do something crazy one time and we will all pay the price. You know, imagine now, Putin all the time keeps on threatening or using the nuclear bomb. Openly, and his prime minister, Medvedev, is even more stupid, you know, he says that every 2 years. Okay, but it's stupid because it's a bluff. It's like when Donald Trump was saying, okay, we'll wipe up North Korea, we'll nuke North Korea. It's also a joke, because you can't wipe out North Korea without wiping out South Korea at the same time. So people bluff and use crazy stuff like that, but what if one day it turns like that, you know? And when Putin sees our president, he says, here comes my favorite dictator. Again, he should not say that, because there should not be a favorite dictator. There should not be a dictator to start with. Having said that, of course, America, I mean, if I want to say something crazy about America, is they always bring two candidates at the final line worse than each other. So you end up having to choose who's less worse. How can a great country like that produce that at the end? You know, I mean, I like Ronald Reagan, I like Bill Clinton, I like President Carter. So this country had very nice and very great leadership, and then it goes down the hill like that, you know.